Good evening. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 8 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, October the 18th, 2011 in the boardroom of the Administration Building at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the public and to instruct it that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, October the 14th, 2011, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the editor at thealternativepress.com and at patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. Mr. Yuniro, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Matesic? Here. Ms. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Finn?
Here.
Mr. Friedman?
Here.
Ms. Kirstead?
Here.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes,
Mr.
here.
Slater?
Here.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Finn, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Please join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we have a table full of announcements this evening, so if we may, Mr. Slater, do you
Sure.
mind starting?
Sure. Roosevelt Intermediate School and the RIS PTSO invite all parents in the Westfield Public Schools and the general public to attend Rachel's Challenge, a community event on Tuesday, November 1st from 7 to 8 p.m. Students 6th grade and older are invited to attend with their parents. Rachel's Challenge is inspired by the first victim of the Columbine tragedy, Rachel Joy Scott, and her writings and drawings that illustrate the need for a kinder, more compassionate nation. This multimedia presentation, brought to schools and communities across the country, will be led by a national speaker and provide lessons for adults and students. There's no attendance fees, and for more information, please contact Teresa Guerrero at 233-0370.
Thank you. Mrs. Clancy.
Okay. 24 Westfield High School seniors have been named commended students in the 2012 National Merit Scholarship Program. Commended students placed among the, listen to this statistic closely, the top 2.3% of more than 1.5 million students who entered the competition by taking the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test in critical reading, mathematics, and writing skills. The commended students from Westfield High School include Alana Basil, Sarah Chandler, Melissa DeCandia, Dominic DiPaula, Michael DiPaolo, Isabel Docampo, Amanda Earl, Rory Fitzpatrick, Alex Goldschmidt, Zoe Greenberg, Jason Isbit, Rafaela Jakubovic, Allegra Larche, Danielle Lipschitz, Finbar Martinson, Kevin Oster, Brian Pollock, Z. Kin, Matthew Ragoza, Rebecca Sarkos, Andrew Schwartz, Stephanie Tepper, Caroline Weber, and Alexander Zimmerman. Wow, that's quite a list. And very impressive. A letter of congratulations from the National Merit Scholarship Corporation to Westfield High School, Peter Renwick, Principal Peter Renwick, reads, "We have great respect for the important part that you and your professional staff play in the development of academically talented young people, and it is a genuine pleasure for NMSC to join you in honoring these able students." Congratulations.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Mrs. Lights.
Yes, this past Friday, our high school volleyball program hosted Cranford High School for the annual Play for Pink charity game. The head coach from Cranford is a Westfield High School graduate and former volleyball player. Westfield's volleyball coaches, parents, and student athletes worked very hard to make this year's event a big success. As of today, total contributions were in excess of $19,000. Their commitment to such a worthy cause is insurmountable. Athletic supervisor Sandy Maymery has commended them for their efforts toward building community awareness. This illness hits close to home with Coach Bev Torok as a survivor and role model to our student body. The gymnasium was filled to capacity. Every fall sports team was represented, and our varsity team won the match. Congratulations.
All good news. Thank you very much. Mr. Friedman, you have
Yep.
an announcement.
Okay. New direct website and email addresses have been added to facilitate information gathering and communication in the Westfield Public School District. To view updates in news and events, parents and public may subscribe to www.westfieldnjk12.org. The subscribe option is at the bottom of that homepage. To view the most current Board of Education agenda, go to www.westfieldnjk12.org/agenda. If you'd like to receive an alert each time the agenda is updated, you may hit the subscribe option at the bottom of that page. The group email address and individual email addresses of Board of Education members are listed on the Board of Education website at www.westfieldnjk12.org/BOE.
Super. Thank you. Ms. Kerstead.
Union County's Red Ribbon Drug Awareness Event will be this Saturday, October 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Oak Ridge Park in Clark. The day includes Red Ribbon 5K Run, Red Ribbon Family Fun Walk, and free family park activities. There also will be a blood drive from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 136 Oak Ridge Road.
Thank you. Mr. Finn.
The Optimist Club of Westfield will sponsor a Halloween costume contest and parade on Sunday, October 30th at the Elm Street Field across from our administration building. The new Halloween event will feature a children's costume contest, entertainment, roaming costume characters, free balloons, and a special exhibit of Westfield's own Addams Family. Children who want to participate in the costume contest should arrive at the Elm Street Field at noon. The 1:00 p.m. parade will start at the Elm Street Field and proceed to Quimby Street in the downtown area. The costume contest is for children from preschool through intermediate school. Young children should be accompanied by an adult. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Carey.
The Special Education Parents Committee of the PTC is sponsoring an informative program for all parents. It is called What You Need to Know About the New Anti-Bullying New Jersey Bill of Rights and How It Affects Our Children. The key speaker will be Audrey Zavitz, who is the Anti-Bullying Coordinator for the Westfield Public Schools. The event will be held Wednesday, October 26th, beginning at 7:30 at Edison Intermediate School. Parents will hear about the rules, regulations, and procedures of this new law and policy. There will be a time for Q&A following the presentation. The new Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Policy, or HIB as it is known, is posted on our website.
Thank you very much. And lastly, last Thursday, the Payroll and Benefits Department organized a health and benefits fair for all of the Westfield Public School employees. It was well attended. It's held from 3 to 6 in the Westfield High School cafeteria. They had representatives from the district's medical, dental, and prescription provider, the credit union, area fitness and wellness businesses, banks, investment firms, and the long-term health care provider. Free flu shots were offered and informational materials were plentiful. I actually attended this. I want to say a special thank you to Sue Frost and to Sandy Sarnecki. It was a well-run, well-attended, over 125 people got their flu shots, which means hopefully everybody's going to be well this winter. But we have worked so hard as a district on our health benefits and to improve what we can provide and to minimize the expense to everyone. So thank you to all the hard work in the district. And lastly, our next public meeting will be November the 1st at 8 o'clock here at 302 Elm Street. Is that it for announcements? Okay, thank you. Now on the agenda, we can recognize the public for agenda items only, the items that are published in our agenda. Seeing no one approach the podium, Dr. Dolan.
Yes, thank you. New Jersey has declared that this week is Violence Awareness Week. And so because of that, I'm doing a report tonight. It actually has two sections to it. The first part, I'm going to review the violence and vandalism incident reports from last year, the numbers from last year, and I'll go over those. The second part, I'll talk about what our schools are doing this week in order to recognize Violence Awareness Week in the state. So first, our numbers from last year. And as you can see on the chart, it gives a summary from what's happened in the past years as well. Just to give a bit of an explanation, violence, vandalism, substance abuse incidents, that includes things, including things like fighting, things like theft, substance abuse, both alcohol and other drugs. Bullying and harassment is also included on here. So this is a summary of the numbers. Whether under the old regulations, which I'm reviewing tonight, or under the new ones, some things don't change. If something is illegal, schools don't have an option. Police are notified. And police have to make a judgment as to whether, a separate judgment as to whether they have to follow through, and there are complaints that are filed and legal actions that follow. Again, there are some things we have absolutely no option. We have to notify police, and we have done that always, and we will continue to do that under new regulations. As you can see, for all of the different actions from last year, they all included short-term suspensions, and that has been the case. It's not always the case, actually. You'll see other numbers in some years, but recently that's been the trend that we've had. The state's very specific in the information that you send to them and what qualifies. Over the years, they've really tightened up the definitions as to what fulfills every category for violence, vandalism, and substance abuse. Earlier, there was a lot of difference among districts, but they really have tightened up the rules and regulations regarding it. We also have to provide information about both offenders, students who are offenders, and students who are victims. So, under offender, you can see the number of regular education students, and they have us break it down also for those students with disabilities. And under victim information, we also have to break it down for regular education students and students with disabilities, and student personnel as well. When you look at those numbers, obviously you try to look at them and see, do we have a pattern of any sort? Some who have been following this for many years know in previous years there was a time when we were concerned we had students with disability. Their number of them who were victims was concerning, actually, and we did some work to make sure we were addressing that. When you look at the offender information for this year, and you see that there are 16, that actually is quite high for us, quite high percentage, and I'll go back to one thing in a moment. And we actually have looked into that specific number because it was different. And when we looked at it, a lot of it had to do with fights. And so one of the things we're working on this year is working on conflict, methods of dealing with conflict, certainly for all students, but maybe particularly for some students with disabilities. It's just, it's not quite a pattern because those numbers are still quite low, but it's still something that alerts us to look and see, is there something we need to address? I neglected to mention one thing earlier. If you look at the difference from 2007, 2008 to this to last year, 2010, 2011, the high school has gained 140 students. 140 students higher than previously. So yes, that number is higher than recently, but honestly, it's not really a difference in percentages, especially when compared to 2007, 2008. Okay. And again, these are the specific categories the state has us report to. It's another piece of information for us to look at and see if there are patterns. The majority of these from last year were in the high school, which is normally the case. First of all, it's our largest school by far. And the next, the two intermediate schools have similar numbers, actually. That's not always the case, but the past year that was the case. And then we usually have very few instances at the elementary schools. But there usually are at least some at the elementary schools. Different actions, but certainly there are some that take place. So those are the basic numbers for the violence vandalism report. Now, one thing I should mention is that, as was noted before, there's new legislation, new law this year, the anti-bullying law, which has been implemented effective September 1. We've done a great deal of training starting back in last year, a great deal of discussion at this table, and also a number of parent meetings. Mrs. Carey mentioned one coming up next week. I know last week there were 3 different meetings in the district regarding it, and I believe there are at least 1 or 2 this week as well. It's a new law, has a lot of changes to it. Part of the changes include the reporting out. There are going to be new guidelines. Some of them are out, some of them aren't. Instead of one presentation a year on numbers, there will be two. You have to report on the first half of the year, the second half of the year, and there are also new categories. So the next time this presentation is done, it will look different than it did tonight. But we'll be prepared for it, and we'll present the information that the state is asking us to prepare. As I mentioned before, a second part of this is we're asked as a school district to make sure that our students know about, are aware of violence awareness during this week. So I thought I would just share a few of the activities that are going on in the schools. And certainly all of our staff members do work hard to make sure that our students are treating each other and their schools with respect. And during this week, we've focused our efforts especially. Our elementary students are discussing how positive change starts with one person. And anyone who's as a parent has sat and read books to their children at night, there's so many great books out there that demonstrate that show one person really can make a difference, even if it's a small difference. But that's something that's stressed, especially with our youngest students. The teachers are also speaking to students about the rules that their parents have already established for them about safety in their home and safety when the students are away from home. Students will be reminded as to who they can turn to when they need help. Certainly their parents, but when they're in school, who is it that they can turn to? Some students know that automatically, and some students need us to teach them who that is, to make sure they know who they can go to. At the intermediate level, students are being reminded about the importance of not being a bystander when they see somebody else bullying or when they see somebody else being bullied. They're being told to be an upstander, to stand up for somebody else, as opposed to being a bystander. Many of our schools, another facet of this, many of our schools have held some of the emergency drills this week so that we all practice how to respond when situations arise. And adults at all levels in the school district are working to be role models for teaching respect for self, respect for others, and very importantly, appropriate ways to address conflict. This is ongoing work. Certainly don't celebrate it for a week and then just turn your attention somewhere else. It's ongoing work that we're committed to and that we'll continue to be committed to.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? All right. Go ahead.
Dr. Dolan, do you feel like as a board we do enough in this area? Because, I mean, this is pretty much it for our interaction. We see the notes on suspensions, but we don't really know what they mean. Should we do more during the year? I mean, maybe that's naturally going to happen with the new HIP policy, but I don't know.
I actually probably want a few different answers, I guess. We could certainly bring some of the people who are working in the schools at various aspects of this to board meetings so that it's highlighted and board members have an opportunity to ask questions. That's an option. But I think I would also argue that board members attend so many different parent meetings and community meetings where the topics are raised that probably board members do a bit more because it's not a topic that's only addressed occasionally. Over the years we address it in so many different ways, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's bullying, whether it's how we treat each other, whether it's the character education efforts that we make. So I actually think we do it in a lot of ways. Maybe we don't always remind each other that's what we're doing. But again, if the board would like anything presented and or have questions and want to see answers presented, that would certainly also be possible.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I would ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meetings held on September the 22nd, October the 4th, and the private minutes of September the 27th.
Second.
So that I want to make sure I'm correct, I believe we had new minutes distributed by email to this board. There were a few corrections, so those are in fact the ones that we are approving. All righty? So are there any corrections or any changes, any abstentions to those? But, yes, ma'am.
I'll be abstaining from October 4th.
Okay.
I was absent.
Anyone else? All right, may I have a second? Did I get a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Carey. All right.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kirsted?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Abstain.
On all or just one?
On October 4th.
October 4th.
Yeah.
And
that
Yes
I
on,
have it.
yes on September
Right,
27th.
okay. Okay.
Okay. Is that?
Yes, by the way.
Doesn't
No, that's all right. The check already, I'll just say it anyway.
A
Just,
little
you know.
low in the
Well,
action.
that's all right. Don't. I saw the check.
I wanted to see if you're paying attention.
All right, we passed that test. Mrs. Clancy?
Okay, personnel. At this time, I would like to ask for the board's, make a motion to ask for the board's approval of personnel items number 1 through 21.
Second that.
Second. Any questions or comments?
Are you waiting this or are you waiting?
Yeah, we're going to do our addendum next.
Okay. That's not good.
Second? Okay. All right.
Oh, she got you.
And I think we're ready for our addendum.
Are we voting on that
I
first?
thought we
Yes,
voting
we
on it first?
Do
Sorry.
the first
What are we
one,
doing?
You have to vote
Yeah.
on a motion on the table.
Right.
But I just note that under number 12, Jennifer Hayes, Jenny Hayes is a Westfield graduate. Congratulations, Jenny. New varsity assistant girls soccer halftime coach.
Congratulations.
The second Westfield graduate, we've talked about being a coach tonight already.
Yeah.
Super, thank you.
Those
All right.
good athletes that were turning
what
out
it
are
is.
coming back.
All right, so shall we vote on items 1 through 21? Please.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstadt?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Vitesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Okay. And personnel has a very exciting addendum this evening. So I would like to make a motion to ask for the board's approval of personnel items number 22 and 23.
Second.
Second.
And I am going to turn over the exciting news to Dr. Dolan.
Thank you.
Item 22 is actually the approval of an updated job description for the position of Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction Program. And item 23 is the appointment of my recommendation for that position. So tonight I'm recommending Mr. Paul Pinero to be the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Program. That is a vital position in this district. Our mission is the preparation of our students. And this job encompasses all of that. Focuses on the curriculum in all areas, focuses on the instruction from our little ones to our older ones, and all of the programs that are needed in order to meet the specific needs of students throughout this district. So we really worked quite hard in our search to find somebody to become the assistant superintendent. I want to thank Mrs. Lights and Mrs. Kerstead, who were part of the committee, who helped me. I think anybody who, we had actually a number of good candidates, and anybody who was interviewed can tell you that the questions were difficult, they were complicated, and we really wanted to make sure that the person we chose was knowledgeable. And with Mr. Pinero, I believe we found someone who certainly has an understanding of the different academic disciplines, certainly also has an understanding of the importance of preparing our students for a future, and that's a future that we're still defining, and yet we have to prepare our students for that. We focus quite a bit, as we've talked about at this table, the importance of technology and the infusion of technology into enhancing learning, and that was a large part of our questioning as well. So with all that, it's my pleasure to recommend Mr. Pinero to be Assistant Superintendent to the Board.
Any questions or comments before we vote?
I just have a question on the job description. So, I know that was amended a couple of times, but number 14, I just want to understand a little bit more about, it seems that that's kind of an overlapping responsibility with guidance in a sense, because it's, well, I'll read it. It's responsible for forming and maintaining relationships with colleges and universities to coordinate and support student teachers, interns, and practicum candidates. So it's more on the teaching side, but is that going to be anything to do with guidance at all, or?
No, this is really to focus on the students who probably are not Westfield High School graduates at all, who are in various universities and colleges in New York and New Jersey.
Okay.
They're generally the ones we work with, so
Yeah,
to
I just
have
wanna
a
make sure.
program to work with them.
Okay, thank you.
And as I understand it, part of the conversation as we worked toward finding a candidate to fill Mrs. O'Neill's position was our new goal of science, technology, engineering, and math, and how we have chosen this as a point of emphasis in our district, and that this was part of the process. That Mr. Pinero brings a strong understanding of technology to our district, and we look forward to that addition and the new emphasis here. So with that said, I think we can vote.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Excellent. Mr. Pinero, welcome to Westfield. Thrilled you're here.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure to be your addendum this evening. It's very exciting to be here. It's a big night for myself, for my family. My wife Angela's here. It's a great opportunity, a great challenge. But in meeting with the committee, and I thank Dr. Dolan and the committee, they were so welcoming. They were very difficult questions. The conversation was a really strong pedagogical discourse, and after a while it felt like a bunch of educators in a room really exploring some different topics that were of interest to all of us. And then by the second interview, we explored some things a little differently and deeper. And then I got a chance to meet some of the board members. I popped into the curriculum meeting, and then we had the visit over in Metuchen. So I've actually gotten to know so many of you already, and the welcome has been phenomenal. I can't wait to get started. It's you know, my expectations were that Westfield and its interviewing panel would certainly vet its candidates, you know, at a very high level. I didn't think what would come along with those expectations and that challenge would be just the welcome and the enthusiasm to be here in Westfield and to be part of that process. It's something that I've always felt strongly about. If you don't come to work excited, then it's not as much fun. Emerson tells us that nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And when I came through here by the second time, I recognized that everybody is very happy and challenged to be here, and I can't wait to join your team and get started. So thank you so much for approving me tonight, and I promise you'll get everything that you're bargaining for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to it.
All right. Mrs. Clancy, you're on again.
Okay. Finance actually met this evening.
Facilities.
Sorry. Finance did not meet, but facilities did. That was close. We talked about finance.
As always.
All right, so I will just give you a quick briefing. We talked a little bit about the projects that we have completed. We are still in discussion regarding the windows at Edison. We got some more information about the costs. We also took a look at our previous 5-year long-range plan of our facilities, and the good news is that most of those projects have been accomplished, but it's time for a new 5-year plan. So our next meeting in November, we will be putting together, hopefully, some wish lists from building principals, from our supervisor, Mike Morris, some ideas that the facilities committee had a couple of meetings ago, and really trying to put something together to bring to the full board for a recommendation for the next 5-year plan. The other exciting topic was the Tamaulipas PTO and principal and architect came to us with a fundraising that they have been working on for an outdoor classroom. And we'll bring a little bit more detail forward regarding that, but they have basically so far taken a little garden area where the second grade used to plant lettuce, and it was very exciting, and a lot of enthusiasm was generated, and are working on expanding that area currently to an entire gardening area for all of the grades to work and build on for the grades 1 through 5. And we started the discussion of them possibly then building an outdoor classroom in the front area of the building. And they went to Rutgers workshops to learn about outdoor classrooms. Mr. Cullen evidently had started an outdoor classroom in a previous district, so they have a lot of knowledge. They've done a lot of research, and we're enthusiastic to watch them move forward. As they bring more information to us, we'll bring it to you as well. But they are currently in the fundraising process of some form of an outdoor classroom to take the education outside. And it's really a large component of it is also just also building community spirit. This is something that Tamaulipas educators, staff, parents, students are all working together towards, building the enthusiasm, and they're very excited.
It truly is a team project.
It is.
You can very much see that.
So it's not just for second grade? It's for
No,
it's
it
a
will
school
be for
event?
the entire school.
Okay.
Yep. And so they also got started with I think we had announced a couple months ago, they had gotten a grant from the Agricultural Society, which actually wasn't monetary, was materials. And so they have started to work with some of those materials, and that kind of really where it all started. So
Exciting.
yeah.
So if we were going to diary our calendars on a facilities plan, to loop back to your first point, would you think that's going to come back to us in November, or should we look for it more in December?
We will be meeting in November, so we could probably give you an update, but my guess is that we would be looking at seeing something more towards December.
Super. Thanks very much. All right. Long-range planning, Mrs. Lights.
Long-Range Planning Committee met last evening with Dr. Dolan and Barbara Ball, and we focused on two topics. Dr. Dolan brought the first topic to the committee, and that was district enrollment and forecasting. While reviewing the district's October 15th official enrollment report, Dr. Dolan noted that she had a concern that traditional enrollment prediction factors had become less successful in recent years. She cited concerns over the size of the Franklin Elementary School, number of sections in each grade, the district's inability to use kindergarten numbers to reasonably predict the first grade size, as well as the report in October 17th, just 2 days ago, yesterday's New Jersey Star Ledger, that stated that the New Jersey birth rate is declining. Given all of these factors, she reminded the committee that although the birth rate had also declined in prior years, Westfield's population school enrollment had increased. So that predictor is not necessarily something that we can base our forecasting on. So based on the fact that traditional factors used to predict enrollment numbers were no longer holding true, Dr. Dolan asked the committee to consider hiring a consulting service to review the district's enrollment data and local demographic and population data and trends to help the district understand and identify factors and measures to forecast our enrollment. The committee agreed to have Dr. Dolan explore the cost of having a consulting service conduct a study to evaluate and identify the factors that will impact enrollment and a method for the district to more accurately predict enrollment in the future. So that was our first topic. Second topic was just looping back, recommendation will be brought to the committee at our next meeting in November. Dr. Dolan will give us some cost information and a view of what could be done in such a study. Second topic was to brainstorm ideas on how to start work on our third district goal for 2011-12. The goal statement, if you remember, is to ensure the continued success of Westfield High School through the period of growing enrollment over the next 4 years. The committee had a terrific discussion, very healthy, on this topic. We focused on fleshing out the tasks that Dr. Dolan presented to us in her superintendent's report on September 27th. And it was agreed that Dr. Dolan would initiate internal studies in the following areas. First, we know that we need to look at high school enrollment projections. That should be easier at this point because we do have people in the seats of our intermediate classes and elementary, but we still want to look at the variability of transitions from 8th grade to 9th grade with students moving out of district into private schools or similar factors. So we'll look at high school enrollment projections, facilities, including building capacity and room usage, identifying specifically rooms that have a specific use based on their equipment or their hookup or their desks or the model or size or whatever. We'd like to look at high school structure, the organizational models for supporting student wellness and a healthy climate of support and belonging to a larger population. And the fourth, more general study is curricular offerings and the teaching capacity, including an understanding of projected changes in the state of state's high school graduation requirements. And this would include understanding different models and options, especially cost basis for the delivery of special education instruction at the high school. In the area of support services, we talked about looking into guidance and counseling, including college planning and support activities, as well as academic advising, and other support services, library, nursing, physical education, extra and co-curricular activities, and athletics. At the end of our meeting, we did talk about the option of conducting a student survey to assist us in understanding the perception and the needs of our high school students. We didn't come to any conclusion as to what we would survey or in what technique, but we're kind of bouncing that around. So if you have ideas or thoughts on that, the committee would really be welcome to hearing them all. The next committee meeting will be November 3rd.
Any comments or questions?
So was scheduling talked about?
Yes,
Different
as
ways
part of the
scheduling?
academic process, including scheduling of teachers, the 8-period scheduling of teachers in a 9-period day, and student scheduling, and whether or not we would have to increase the density of courses offered at the first period as well as 9th period. Yes. It was a great meeting. Appreciate everybody's attendance.
Anybody else? Okay. On the agenda next is policies, and policies will meet this Thursday, so we'll have a report on November the 1st. Ms. Carey.
SIP met last week, and we had a jam-packed agenda. So to put it on the table, I would ask the board to approve for first reading the following curricula. In social studies, comparative religions. Under fine arts, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade art, and 8th grade crafts. Under practical arts, technology, engineering, and design 1 and 2, transportation, power, and energy, and project build. So may I have a second at this point? Mitch? Thank you.
And just to those are intermediate courses under practical arts.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a little
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So as I said, SIP met, and our first subject on the agenda was social studies, and we met with social studies supervisor Andrea Brennan and high school teacher Dan Faribault. We discussed comparative religions, which we all decided we actually want to sit in on. And we were invited, but we said we weren't taking any tests. Comparative Religions is an elective course open to students in grades 9 through 12, and it is a semester course. The study of religion aids students' understanding of world politics, past and present conflicts, and prepares students for the increasing contact experienced in a global society. The course is an exploration of the common themes throughout the 7 major world religions. There will be one section of the course running in the spring with 18 students, and the department is right now actively seeking ways to increase enrollment, not only in this elective, but in all of the social studies electives, because they have a wide offering. All the courses are very rich, but sometimes we can only have 1 or 2 sections run, so they're actively trying to reach out to students to get those enrollments up. Under fine arts at the intermediate level, first we looked at the 6th and 7th grade art courses, which are cycle courses, which mean that the students have 2 marking periods of art each year. The aim of the intermediate school art curriculum is to provide students with knowledge, skills, and experiences in art that foster the development of a creative and well-rounded individual. The 6th grade course teaches the basic elements of design and the principles and skills necessary to be able to create art. The courses are written to build on each other in terms of content, scope, and sequence. And one thing that came up at the meeting was that because of the budget cuts over the last few years, the classes are running at 27 and 28 at both intermediate schools. So I think as we go into the budget season, we need to be cognizant of that we really can't certainly have those numbers go any higher. In 8th grade, art is no longer mandatory. It becomes an elective, and there are 2 elective courses. The first is Fine Arts, which builds on the 6th and 7th grade art curriculum. And then we have the Crafts class that allows students to work with different mediums such as clay, fiber, textiles, wood, and plaster. And both of these classes also have a historical and cultural aspect. Lastly, we looked at the practical arts classes at the middle schools. These are classes that will serve as the foundation of our STEM program as we move forward, because currently we have no engineering classes at the high school, but we do actually have them at the middle school. Excuse me. First, we looked at technology, engineering, and design 1 and 2, which are cycle courses in the 6th and 7th grades. Design 1 introduces the students to pre-engineering concepts that involve science, math, communication skills, and a hands-on approach to learning. And Design 2 emphasizes the elements of engineering and introduces the engineering design process to students. The 8th grade courses are electives. The first one is Transportation, Power, and Energy, and that gives an historical perspective and understanding of transportation and teaches the relationship between energy, power, and transportation. And then the last course we looked at was Project Build, which used to be known as Woodshop. It has been expanded and now includes work in both metals and plastic, and still continues to focus on wood as well. Students learn the concept of green technology and recycling and develop an understanding of the use of various tools and machines. All of the curricula has been revised to be in line with both the new New Jersey core curriculum and the Common Core standards where needed. And I just have to say that the teachers in the practical arts, these 2 teachers are so enthusiastic. I mean, it's like they're just chafing at the bit to do everything exciting. They bring a lot of excitement and a lot of passion to those courses. Are there any questions? Yes.
Just one, assuming these are approved, how quickly could they get up and run?
They are all up and running.
Oh, so this is just
They're
complete
revised.
modifications? Okay, great. Thanks.
And I wanted to ask Ginny to talk about one
Yeah.
other.
I just
program.
wanted to add that we had some good news. You may remember that Westfield, our district, has had a program where we've connected with the Westfield Senior Housing Unit. And our elementary school, McKinley, and Matt Bolton will continue with the Senior Citizens Project. And we're going to introduce a project at Edison Intermediate School, and Cheryl O'Brien will help define that with the administration of the Westfield Senior Housing Unit. So I'm thrilled that that's going to take place, and it's going to be a great experience to continue for the district and the kids.
Thanks, Ginny.
Thank you.
So should we vote on this one, and then I'll go back to item number 2? Okay.
So we're just voting on 1.
Yes, it's voting on 1.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kirsten?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then under number 2, I would like the board to approve an overnight field trip for Westfield High School students in Project 79. The upperclassmen, the juniors, and the seniors will be traveling to Princeton Blairstown Center to develop peer mentoring skills from October 19th. I guess that's tomorrow they'll be going, through October 21st. So I'd ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Finn. And I guess we'll vote on that too.
So typically, we approve these earlier than the night before.
We do.
Yes. Yes. Thought that we
Typically,
might.
we do.
Typically, we do.
There was some paperwork,
Perfect, okay.
some issues with paperwork.
Okay, and Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstedt?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Both motions carry. All right. Mr. Matesic, Finance.
Right, I'd ask the board to consider finance motions 1 through 8 in the addendum to those motions.
The addendum actually replaces numbers 1 and 2.
So, yeah, exactly.
Places before?
Numbers 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
1 and 2. I'll second.
Okay, so just a couple comments. As Vince mentioned, motions number 1 and 2 have been for the appointment of the architects for the McKinley and Franklin school boilers, as well as some of the restrooms at Edison School. The addendum effectively does the same thing. It just includes more information, which will be helpful in the state approval process. So that's the reason for the change. I also wanted to just call attention to resolution number 6, which was a gift of 7 HP multi-seats to the Tamaqua School Library from the PTO. Thank you very much for that.
What's a multi-seat?
I can ask the same question.
Multi-seat is sort of a system where if you buy one, we'll just call it a very powerful computer, there is a way to hook up other computers that are less powerful, so you get many more computers for the same amount of money. It has to be within a certain geographical area, it can't spread out too far, but it's something we've started to do within the past year, and it really is giving us a lot more computers and containing the cost. It's been very effective, and it's working well at different levels.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstedt?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. I would ask the board to note the notes for the record on this fire and security drills. Is there anyone that has a legislation report? Okay. Is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business to be brought before the board? Yes, sir.
Yes. I'm happy to say that we've been told recently that we now have the ability to air all of our board meetings on demand on our website. And I would like to put a resolution out there tonight to have this begin as soon as technically possible. So I would ask for a second.
I will second.
And then any, certainly, discussion on this matter, if anyone has any thoughts. I just personally feel that it's, having this ability makes perfect sense. We certainly, people have the ability to watch on TV 36, but for those that aren't able to watch, have the ability to go right on our website. We already have the on-demand ability to watch the Focus on Education series and any other things that we add, and I think the ability to have our Board of Education meeting seems to be very logical and makes sense, in my view.
Is there any cost of implementing?
Mrs. Cranky? No, there isn't.
I thought I would offer up, and it is, I will absolutely admit, for the inconsistencies in thought. We have a goal for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics this year as a district as a whole, and Mr. Slater is absolutely proposing that we use the technology that we have. I understand. However, and we all knew that word was coming, however, I believe that these public meetings offer a challenge to some folks to speak in public. and the more access to be viewed could be a chilling effect. And I just want to say that out loud, that I recognize that could happen. It is not always the easiest thing. Public speaking is something we teach in our school districts. It's not the easiest thing for everyone. So I do see not an all-up side to this particular resolution, and Mr. Slater and I have certainly talked about this. So I thought it only fair that I share it with the entire board that I have reservations about this. So.
So you're afraid members of the public will be
Disinclined, exactly, disinclined to come and speak.
Even though they're on TV.
I don't, that on-demand thing, I believe, offers a different access, which is the point that you're trying to make.
Right, correct.
That you want more access.
Right.
And so I think I started with, I recognize the inconsistencies,
Right.
I do. But I also feel that this could not be welcome for everyone who has something to say to us, and have it feel as easy to come to a meeting and speak. And so if this motion carries, I guess what I want to say, please don't feel that way. We still want you to come to our meetings, but it could be not as easy.
So maybe, just to give us a little bit of time to process this and maybe a little bit of time to get some public input, if we could maybe have the discussion tonight and then see if we got any feedback necessarily from the public that, you know, whether there were concerns, thoughts, just to give it a little bit of time. The public will now hear it over the course of the next, couple weeks, and maybe we could get some feedback.
Could you explain exactly where the access would take place? Would it be a separate website? Is this Vimeo or is this?
Vimeo.
Yes, it
It's
would
right
be on the district website.
On the district
On
website.
the district website.
Right.
So people would have to seek the district.
Right, yeah. There'd be a link
But could
directly
people
on the
go in
page.
independently to Vimeo?
No, they would only, I believe, from what Lori's told
So
me.
the access would be as if they were coming through the district portal,
Right,
only through a district portal.
right.
It somewhat narrows their intention.
And if I understand Vimeo correctly, you can't download it into a file.
No, you can't download it at all. It's, it's one, it's push communication. It's, you
Right.
have to go on the site to watch it.
It doesn't cause us any kind of bandwidth issues or anything else?
Not from what
Everybody
I
flocks to
believe,
meetings.
no, not from what I've heard. Hopefully we'll be expanding, but no, that's,
Only if we go viral.
I think
Right.
Jane's thoughts are very reasonable. It's a new technology. I mean, you
Said
don't
only
agree,
if we-
perhaps?
No, she said only if we go viral.
I
listening
wasn't
to-
here. I
Yeah.
wasn't listening.
Meaning like if somebody really loves our board meeting.
Right,
They're
just
just,
can't get
so
enough
many,
of
so
them.
many hits.
I know, the idea I made a technology
That's
joke,
right.
it's too
That's
much. Sorry.
It's a joke.
You liked it?
Just your reaction to it more than anything else.
I get the
within the
viral
joke.
part. Well, I don't know. I think it's reasonable for inroads to be made through the PTO to ask if it would at all disincline people to arrive, to represent their point of view. Certainly, we don't want to inhibit that at all. On the other hand, we would like information to be made available
right.
to the public.
From a historical perspective, when television was added, was there few discussions, was...
I don't know. We weren't here.
Yes.
For our time.
Well, you would be the first one I would ask.
Yeah.
You were here.
For my time.
Yeah.
No, did it have an impact to the public?
Was
Is the question.
there a community outreach to see if they were okay if it was on television?
But there was conversation about whether to do it or not. It did go on for a few weeks on whether to add it or not. Whatever. So, I guess what we have is two proposals on the table. Your resolution on whether to go ahead and start immediately.
Correct.
And then Mrs. Clancy's recommendation that we take a month or so, or at least until the next meeting, to see if anyone replies back to us about their idea, your idea about whether to put it on the demand, as we call it, the Walker House.
Couldn't we do it for a 30-day period and have it on the website and just see what happens? See what happens as a
Do first,
compromise.
ask later?
No, because we always can pull it down. I mean, if there's anything that we're noticing, people coming saying, don't put me up on
But
the
I think the
computer.
question was more, in the future, would people prefer not to arrive here knowing that their
Right.
conversation was going to be then later
Right.
displayed?
And if we have 2 board meetings, let's say in 30 days, to do some sort of, really quick, if nobody comes to the microphone, I guess we could maybe say it's because it's online, but if people keep
people
coming
tell
what
us
they
I'm not
have,
coming
or if
because
people
it's
tell
gonna
us
be
I'm
on
not
the
coming because it's
website.
going to be online, and there's a motion on the table, I guess. is
Yeah,
the
they have
point.
Okay. So Mr. Slater's motion was made first and has a second. We'll start there.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the second.
Oh, Mr. Finn?
Okay.
Well, I'll move to table the motion.
Okay.
Give time for an outreach. I mean, I don't, it doesn't affect me either way. I'm used to being on television, as we all are.
Yeah.
But I certainly would not want others to be inhibited.
Need a second to table?
You did.
Okay, I second the table.
And what do you do?
So what we would do
We vote on a motion
is
to table.
see if the tabled motion goes first, because if it passes, then the other wouldn't, because it would be tabled.
So a third, is
I
there like
tried.
a recliner after the
I
table?
tried,
or-
you noticed.
Table the table.
Okay. Robert's rules might not be exactly followed at this moment. All right, so the motion that's on the table is being voted on is Mrs. Lights to table Mr. Slater's. If it does not carry, then we'll move to Mr. Slater's motion. Okay? All right.
And the second on the table?
You do, Mrs. Clancy.
Okay. Mrs. Lights,
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes?
Mr. Matesic,
No.
Ms. Carey.
I'm sorry, could I ask a question?
Yes, sorry.
So we're tabling it until the next meeting,
For some
Yes.
comment.
and then are we going to reach out for comment, or it just if people decide to comment? Is there going to be some,
I think maybe the PTO, Jenny
Yes.
has suggested maybe discussing at the PTC and the PTO meetings.
And it'll be referenced in the synopsis that goes
I
out.
think it's reasonable for our our outreach coordinator
Just a
to.
little bit of outreach first.
okay, so then someone will report back to us on what the feedback was, and then I guess we'll vote again. Is that what's going to happen
I
here?
have no doubt Mr. Slater will make this motion again on the 1st of November,
Yeah.
so.
And I'll second it again.
Okay,
Perfect. We can schedule that,
I
okay.
think it's all reasonable, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think we can wait 2 weeks. I mean, yes.
By way of there, yes. Okay.
Mr. Finn,
No.
Mr. Friedman,
No.
Ms. Kirsten.
No pressure.
Roseanne.
We'll leave it for
Yeah,
Reasonable for you.
I'm going to say no.
And Mrs. Slater.
No.
Motion fails to pass.
It does fail.
First motion's on the table.
I have a sneaking suspicion. All right, so now the vote, to vote on the motion that was placed on the table by Mr. Slater, second by Mr. Finn, on whether to go ahead and put our meetings on our website to be viewed on demand. I hate to use a commercial term, but I don't want us to call it.
Okay. Mrs. Slater,
Yes.
Mr. Finn,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
No?
Mr. Matesic,
Yes.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy,
No.
Mr. Friedman,
Yes.
Ms. Kirsten,
Yes.
Mrs. Lights.
No.
The motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay. Mrs. Gurecki, there we are. Ad hoc committee reports. Yes, sir.
Just saying that the Ad hoc Technology Committee will be meeting next Wednesday, the 26th, at Westfield High School,
5 or 5:30 or something.
around 5:30, to hear some presentations from our media specialist and learn more about how technology is being used in the high school. We're kind of doing a road trip to different schools, and we're starting there.
If I may, I'm going to ask for the board's permission. Is there anyone else, I'm sorry, with an ad hoc committee report? If we could make our liaison reports 2 weeks from tonight, we have an evening full of items still to go in our private session, and I recognize there are members of the public who are here. So, if I may, we're going to skip over that. I will highlight that we will have both tonight's and next week's all at once. And so we could then move, and I'm going to offer this up by way of trying to manage my evening for those who have waited through, and I thank you for that. Let's start and see. I have high hopes that we can move along. So, recognize the public for any non-agenda items at this time. So if you could, please state your name and your address for the record. Thank you very much.
Good evening to the board. My name is Patrick Coleman, and this is my wife.
Noreen Coleman. Good evening.
Let me thank you for your consideration in juggling your standard agenda. My wife is more intimately acquainted with the matter that we come before the board with tonight. And so at this point in time, I have some more remarks and statements I'd like to make, but I would just like to first ask, my wife Noreen Coleman sent an email out, I believe she said largely en masse to the board members regarding a busing situation. Is there anyone that's not familiar with those emails or, the subject thereof, matter thereof? Anybody in the dark on that?
I believe we all got them.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'd like to know if you have any questions for us, and also first like to establish whether or not the board has any ability to direct or any governance in the area of busing as it pertains to, individual children or groups of children. And if the board is prepared at this time then to make any comments about those emails and the requests that we have out there, because I don't know if it has been properly reviewed or directed to the right person. But we are seeking some feedback regarding those emails, and then whatever comments my wife has.
Excuse me, could we have the facts represented to us just very briefly? We've had a number of emails with information of different situations that arrived. But I think I recall what it
Right.
is, but I'd like just a quick refresher on the information.
Right. You can correct me. I'll look at you and you can nod if I'm doing it incorrectly or not.
Sure.
I think the specific issue here is that there is a child who is on a bus stop by themselves, and the bus stop is around the corner from where the house is, not visible from where the house is. That's the short version. I mean, there are more details clearly, but that's just a short version, and I don't think we want to do too many details.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I think another, just to add on to that,
Sure.
is that the bus stop was there, was given to her, and she had it, and then it was taken away.
That's true.
So that, I think, is important to know. It's been done. We're not asking anything that hasn't been done. There's quite a few details that can fill in, a lot of blanks. But for the sake of time, I guess, we're kind of condensing it. So,
If I may, I would like to address your husband's comments, because I think they were very well placed and exactly what we all need to recognize this evening. Your emails raised very fact-specific questions that this Board of Education cannot address at this particular time at this table, because it does involve questions to organizations that don't sit at this table. They're not being ignored. It has happened in a very short time period, and to do this properly, we need to gather some more information. So I don't want you to feel like you came here tonight and nothing happened, you weren't heard. I'm trying to explain to you that the Board of Education doesn't do bus routes, we don't do operations, but you sent an email to us and asked us to investigate something, which is a different question. So to do that, we need to gather some more information from our bus company and from some other data gathering based on the facts that you presented, which will involve us contacting you. And I just don't know how much you want to share tonight, but with that said, I wanted to make sure you understood that there won't sort of be a vote tonight. Okay?
That's understood.
Okay.
I think largely tonight, I just wanted to ensure that the issue is out there and that it was one that was properly addressed or placed with the board. Aside from all of the numerous details that my wife has included in her email, to just make an in-person and passionate plea that regarding this matter, whatever latitude the individuals here have regarding the decisions that can be made, need to be made, I, as a father, my wife as a mother, don't want there to be a Asa Coleman law, like a Megan's law, like Megan Kanka. I don't want to have to ask why after the fact. That one afternoon I get a call from my wife saying that my daughter was dropped off at her scheduled bus stop, which is around the corner from my home, and she's 30 minutes missing. My daughter was supposed to be picked up at her bus stop, which is on the corner, 3 houses, 4 houses away from us, and we can't see her, and we call the school and she's not there. So I'm hoping that your investigation will, I hope, reveal to you that what we're asking for is not special consideration, but I think probably in keeping with some of the current practices that you will find going on in the town's busing and scheduling.
With the emails being sent out, and I understand that the board has to do their investigation, I also am taking into consideration that had we not been standing here tonight, I wouldn't even know that it was something that's even still being looked into. I have been doing everything that has been asked of me, seeking counsel from different members, whether it be a principal to a board member, the bus company, whoever it is that I need to have dialogue with to try to come to some kind of understanding. I've written letters, I've talked to people. I have actually even gone so far as to give it as much time as needed. I've been told repeatedly. And even tonight, it just appears to be the same kind of situation where, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it is the common term that I've been told since, this, the beginning of the school year. We've been patient. On the same token, school year is moving on. My daughter is still dealing with what she's dealing with every day. And, it doesn't make things easier, for us. This is the last formality, I guess you could say. We've done the letters, we've done emails, we've had the conversations. This was suggested as a formality as well. So, we honestly are feeling as though, we're constantly being asked to hurry up and wait. I've had interactions where I felt like I was a bad cold. And, with bad colds, people eventually say, eventually it'll go away. And that's pretty much how I felt as though the interactions that I've had have been with some of the board members as well as, other people that are involved in the situation. It's kind of hard not to make it personal, but it is a personal plea. Standing here tonight, watching the meeting go on and, seeing the different agendas, I feel like, my situation should have been an agenda as well. How do you go about that process? So I get here now, go through this process, and then we're still leaving the same as we came in with, another promise. So, this is, it's nothing new. I'm pretty sure when my name was heard, it was like, okay, I know where she is. So I'm pretty sure that, especially with, the intensity of the emails and the names that are in the email, and, a lot of them being present here tonight, I think the only person who isn't here is the bus company. But we're kind of at a place now where we're kind of worried. We're worried. I'm very worried every morning for my daughter and every afternoon, which is why I drive her to the bus stop. I walk her every morning, and then I pick her up. I drive down there and get her every day just to make sure she's okay. The milk carton thing is very serious. The abductions and the lurings that are happening in New Jersey, the bank being robbed right across the street from where we live is a sign of the times. So, should we have to wait until something happens and then we go, what, we could have, we should have, but we didn't.
So to my wife's point, I guess as we, as you all say, table this matter till you've had time to do your diligence, is it possible that the board is able to give us a commitment tonight as to when we can have or hear the results of your investigation and get some guidance as to where that decision lies and what that decision is? So some sort of time frame. with whom that decision-making ability lies, and when we can, hear the results of your investigation. It's a great distress to my wife every afternoon to have to run up to Roosevelt, get my son, while, dragging around the little one, get back home in time to hope that she doesn't miss the bus because my daughter's getting dropped off around the corner from the house.
And down the street.
And, it's just a little stressful. And even that is just parents do what they must. But, the email details how we feel about, how unsafe this is and all of that. So, long story short, is the board able to commit to a time period where we can hear back from you regarding your investigation and your final decision?
I can't honestly commit to a date and time at this point, but our next meeting is 2 weeks from now, and our goal would be to have it resolved by then. But as far as a date and who you will hear from, I'm not exactly sure how that will go. And just so that we're all on the same page on this, this is exactly what this portion of the meeting is for parents to come and be heard by the Board of Ed. So this, and for the sake of continuity for the understanding, this board hasn't been aware of that situation that's happening in your home for more than 5 days, I believe. Friday.
You're saying the board, on my side, in its entirety, has not been aware.
Right.
In its entirety.
That's correct. So, I would say that you've been here, we've gotten your emails as a group, and you will hear from us.
Okay, will that be in this forum as an agenda?
Unlikely.
item, or-
No, unlikely. You'll hear from us either via email or phone.
Okay.
Or someone from the administration will call you. Because, like I said, we don't do busing routes at this table. That's really not what we do.
But there are people who are from the transportation department that are sitting here right now, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And again, as with we're trying to be understanding and trying to get as much information as well to help with the understanding. It hasn't been this whole experience. Most people are aware of supposedly 5 days, but this has been going on because I was the first person to call probably on the first day of school. So I haven't been a silent person letting things build up. I've been constantly communicating, and I'm not getting the same thing in return. So the fact that my husband is asking about a time frame is because
I understand.
We've been diligent, and every time I saw someone who could possibly give an ear, I was there.
Okay.
And I was placing it in the ear.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone else? All righty. So we do have a private session this evening, so I would ask the board to approve the following resolution, that be it resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purposes of discussing personnel, litigation, or negotiations, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you very much.